The oldest map in Europe, a lost golden city in Egypt, a massive geoglyph in India that may be the world's largest. Just some of the archaeological discoveries that were reported in 2021 despite all the problems with the ongoing COVID pandemic. Scholars made numerous finds. And in this countdown we're going to look at some of the best history and archaeological stories of 2021. Starting off with Google Earth's done it again. Google Earth reveals the world's largest geoglyph. For those who don't know, geoglyphs, which are sprawling designs on the land formed with earth or stone, have not previously been found in India. They are known from other deserts, Peru and Kazakhstan. The Indian glyph consists of several spiral, long snaking line that doubles back on itself again and again. All told, the patterns cover 51 acres, 20.8 hectares. Near the border with Pakistan, a hike along the lines would make a journey of 30 miles, 48 kilometres. It's not clear why the lines were made, though they were situated near several rock cairns and stacks and memorial stones, the latter carved with images of the Hindu deities Krishna and Ganesha. The lines may have some sort of religious or ceremonial meaning. Discoveries and independent French researcher Carlo Otheimer and Johann Otheimer wrote for the upcoming September issue of the journal Archeological Research in Asia. The overall pattern is not visible from the ground as there's no high point nearby and the terrain is flat. Only by scouting the region on Google Earth were they able to discover the geoglyphs. Over to Egypt. Archaeologists found a lost golden city that's been buried under the ancient Egyptian capital of Luxor for the past 3,000 years. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiques announced Thursday, April the 8th, the city, historically known as the Rise of Aten, was found by Amenhotep III, who ruled between 1391 and 1353 BC, the grandfather of Tutankhamun or King Tut. People continued to use the Golden City during Amenhotep III's co-regency with his son Amenhotep IV, who later changed his name to Akhenaten, as well as during the rule of Tut and the pharaoh who followed him, known as Ay. Despite the city's rich history, historical documents report that it was home to King Amenhotep III's 3 royal palaces and was the largest administrative and industrial settlement in Luxor at that time. Its remains eluded archaeologists until 2021. Amazing. His team began the search in 2020 with the hopes of finding King Tut's mortuary temple. They chose to look in this region because the temples of both Horemheb and Ay were found in this area. Hawass said they were taken aback when they began uncovering mud bricks everywhere they dug. The team soon realised that they had unearthed a large city that was in relatively good shape. The city streets are flanked by houses. Hawass said these houses had rooms that were filled with knickknacks and tools that ancient Egyptians used in daily life. The discovery of the lost city is the second most important archaeological discovery since the tomb of Tutankhamun. Next, we're over to Cambridgeshire for rare evidence of Roman crucifixion uncovered in the UK. A nail was found hammered into one of the heel bones of the crucified skeleton. A man in Roman England, possibly a slave, died brutally when he was crucified in the 3rd or 4th century AD, according to the archaeologists who found his remains, including a nail hammered through one of his heel bones. The man, who died between the age of 25 and 35, had thinning in his leg bones that indicated that he had been chained to a wall for a long time before his crucifixion, said David Ingham, a project manager at Albion Archaeology in England, who led the excavation of the remains. We think he was one of the local native population. Archaeologists found the man's battered skeleton in a cemetery containing the graves of 48 people whose remains showed signs that they engaged in hard manual labour. Nearby, the team found a workshop of sorts where animal bones were split so that marrow, which was used to make soap among other things, could be extracted. The team conducted the excavations before a housing development was built in the area in Cambridgeshire. They published the findings on Wednesday, December the 8th in British Archeological magazine. It's possible that the crucified man, along with the people buried in the cemetery, were enslaved, Ingham told Live Science. He noted that in AD 212, Roman citizenship was extended to all free people who lived in the Roman Empire, and that crucifixion was generally not performed on Roman citizens. During the man's crucifixions, his arms would have been tied to a cross with his feet nailed to the ground. The position would have made it hard to breathe and he would have suffocated. This discovery is one of just few examples of crucified persons being found from the Roman Empire. Ingham said another example discovered in 1968 was unearthed in a 1st century tomb in Jerusalem. Europe's oldest map, a stone slab unearthed in France. The map likely represents an area along the river Odette in western France. A 4,000-year-old stone slab first discovered over a century ago in France may be the oldest map known in Europe, according to a new study. The Saint Belec slab dates back to the early Bronze Age, 2150 to 1600 BC, and was first discovered in 1900 in a prehistoric burial ground in Finisterre, Brittany. It made up one of the walls of the cist, a stone box that housed the bodies of the dead. The slab was likely made before it was reused in a burial towards the end of the early Bronze Age, between 1900 and 1640 BC. According to a statement, at the time of the discovery, the broken slab, which is 12.7 feet long, was moved to a private museum, and France's Museum of National Antiques acquired it in 1924. It was then stored in a French castle where it gathered dust until it was rediscovered in the castle cell in 2014, but only recently researchers began to understand the interesting story behind this prehistoric slab. Ancient lovers' embrace. About 1,500 years ago, a couple, a male and female, were buried together in a loving embrace. When archaeologists found their remains, their embrace was still intact despite the passage of time. This is the first couple found in a loving embrace as such, anywhere in time in China. Study lead researcher Quinn Wang, an associate professor in the Department of Biomedical Sciences of the Texas A&M College of Dentistry, told Ralph and Bowman in an email the man was between 29 and 35 years old and had a few injuries, including a broken arm and a missing finger on his right hand. The woman was between 35 and 40 years old and had a few cavities but no apparent injuries. Researchers speculate that after the man died, the woman may have killed herself to make it easier to be buried in a loving embrace. A 2,000-year-old pet cemetery that may be the oldest known example in the world was discovered in Berenice, a port on Egypt's Red Sea coast. The animals buried in the cemetery appear to have died of natural causes and have been treated with loving care. At other sites in Egypt that have animal burials, the animals were often sacrificed. At the pet cemetery, archaeologists found a variety of animals, including a large dog who was wrapped in a mat of palm leaves. They also include toothless dogs and cats who were very old when they died and may have required help from their owners to eat. Our discovery shows that we humans have a deep need for the companionship of animals, said the lead researcher. An 11,000-year-old prehistoric site in Turkey, which is now called Karahantepe, was used, I may have pronounced that wrong, was used for prehistoric parade that saw people walk through the building that contained phallus-shaped pillars and a carving of a human head. All pillars are erected and shaped like a phallus. Nekmi Karul, a professor of prehistoric archaeology at Istanbul University, wrote in a paper published in the journal, "The building is part of a larger complex excavations at the site, started in 2019 and are ongoing." The site dates to a similar time as Göbekli Tepe, another archaeologist site that has large buildings and carvings of animals and human heads. Both sites are two of the oldest known monumental sites constructed by people. A 4,300-year-old burial ground in Syria at the site of Tel Banat may be the world's oldest known war monument, archaeologists say. It contains the corpses of at least 30 warriors along with equids and pellets. Archaeologists found that soldiers with equids tended to be grouped in different areas, that soldiers with pellets as if they were part of different units. Ancient inscriptions in Mesopotamia mention how the bodies of the war dead were piled into highly organised structures. The people who lived in the area in modern times called the mound the White Monument because the monument's gypsum causes it to glisten in the sunlight. The discovery shows that ancient people honoured those killed in battle just as we do. Dragon Man. Scientists in China report the discovery of a new human species which they call Homi longi, which means dragon man. It's known from a skull that was found in 1933 but hidden in a well during the Japanese occupation of China, where it remained for 85 years until it was rediscovered and studied. The skull is the largest Homo skull known to exist, and studies suggest that dragon man may be the closest known related species to Homo sapiens. It's not clear when exactly dragon man first appeared and when it went extinct, but the skull itself dates back sometime between 309,000 and 138,000 years ago. The oldest ghost drawing. Barely visible to the naked eye, a museum curator identified an engraving on a 3,500-year-old Babylon tablet as being the oldest known depiction of a ghost. The ghost is male, has a beard and appears grumpy as he is being led by a rope to the underworld by a woman. The tablet has a spell on it that is meant to exorcise a ghost. The spell transfers the ghost into a figurine and calls upon the sun god Shamash to help the ghost pass over into the afterlife. The last line of the ritual warns, "Do not look behind you." The tablet is in the British Museum, having been acquired in the 19th century, but the ghost wasn't spotted until recently. And that wraps it up.